Well, welcome, folks. My name is Peter, and I see we have some people here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people so far. If you guys want to, there's going to be a small class, so we could, if you want me to look at you, you can turn your camera on. If you'd prefer not to do that, at least turn your microphone on so we can talk. As we get started, my name's Peter Lemieux. You should be able to see me. Hi, Kayla, I see you now. I think that's you. Okay, I gotta know who, Michelle, I see you. T, I see T. That's 3 of you. There's a Gloria. I don't know if I see you yet. Oh, hi, Gloria. And Neuron is mute right now. So T, do you want to continue to be called T, or do you want to give me some other name to give you? I can't hear you.
Hi, T is
Hi.
short for Tina, but I thought I'd keep it simple and leave it at T.
Okay, we'll keep it T, but Tina is not that complicated for me. I've seen more confusing names. All right, T, I'll call you T all day long. All right. Okay, while we wait to see who else is joining, you can. Oh, I see, Neuron. You don't have a mic. So Neuron, you can put on the chat. You guys want to put this on the chat? I'd like to know what state you're studying for. That would be helpful to me. And if you have your exam scheduled, let me know when the exam is. Kayla, it seems like everyone I meet wants to move to Tennessee, my daughter included. It's crazy. But the price of living there goes up by the hour, it seems. T, you're taking a test on Saturday? What part of New York are you in? I grew up in New York State.
I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn, I've heard of it.
I hope so. Probably on the news.
No, my son lives in Long Island, so, and works in New Jersey, so he's on the train every day. Gloria, I also am from Arizona, so we're in the same time zone. What part of Arizona do you call home? Yes, there is, Michelle. I'll give it to you in a bit.
Yes, I'm from Rio Rico, actually. It's very, very close to the border.
Say again, what is it?
Rio Rico, Arizona.
Yeah. So are you over toward the Yuma side, Tucson side? What part?
Tucson side.
Okay.
Yes, nearby Tucson. I am like a few steps from the border.
Okay. Welcome to class. Welcome all of you. Let's see. We have some people change. You know, this is only my second day working with Melissa, although I've worked with her for years at another place. And second day, this is unbelievable. The Chad, are you the Chad that was with me yesterday? I mean, I've only been here 2 days and I know somebody. Is this possible? Yes, sir. Wow. Next thing you know, Chad, we'll be exchanging Christmas cards. We're getting to know each other so well. The Chad, excuse me, I got to call you by your proper title. You're not just Chad, the Chad. Welcome to class, folks. I think there's maybe everyone's here. I didn't get a list of who signed up, but Let me do a quick introduction. My name is Peter Lemieux. I am not the insurance exam queen. I am her servant, okay? I have worked with Melissa for many years. I've always enjoyed her energy, her enthusiasm. I think she's an absolutely marvelous teacher. And when we were chatting about the possibility of me helping her out, I got really excited about it. So I'm here in the service of the queen, who is, of course, Melissa. I have taught prepared people for exams for a long time. Look at me, I'm 100 years old, for goodness sake. So about 15 of my insurance years have been in training and teaching people. And the last 7 or 8 teaching classes on state exams specifically, a lot of them with Melissa. So that's the experience I bring to the table. I've been in the insurance business for a total of 49 years. And I've been in sales, management, recruiting, training. I've tried it all. And so I have some experience, but that's not really what I do here. My goal in these classes is to help you pass an exam. The Chad, you're going to hear me say things a second time. Some people take these classes thinking they're going to learn about insurance. That's not what we do. When you get your license, your employer is going to teach you about insurance and policies and selling and all that stuff. What Melissa and I do is we try to help you pass a state exam. So our material and our teaching are stuff that's on the exam that you have to get clear in your mind to pass the exam. So there may be things you're really interested in. If we have time, I'll be happy to chat about them. But usually I say, that's really not going to help you pass the test. It's interesting. It's a nice discussion. If we didn't have anything to do today and just having coffee, I could talk to you about it. But we're going to try to focus on all the stuff that's on the exam. And today, what brings us together is we're going to do a Kahoot game. So being this is, I'm just starting off with Melissa, although I've done this before. I reviewed the Kahoot game that we're going to do on PNC. I've done a lot of Kahoot games. This game is difficult, okay? A lot of Kahoot games are really simple, just simple questions. If you don't know, it's because you haven't studied at all yet. This one is not that way. I kind of had the feeling if someone's been working on the course, it's this like this, whether you can relate to this example or not. You've been going to the gym and you've been lifting 50 pounds. And one day you walk in and your trainer says, today we're starting with 75. Whoa, I've never done over 50. This is what this Kahoot may feel like, okay? So those of you that have done a lot of studying and you think you're in good shape, it'll challenge you a little bit. For those of you that might just be starting out, this one could be downright depressing because so many questions are so difficult. But that's good news, folks, because one of the things we do with the Kahoot is it gives me an opportunity to teach after every question, teach what's going on. And you look for 2 things when you play a game. Number 1 is, do I know the insurance information? Do I know why an answer is wrong and why an answer is right? But there's another thing that happens, whether you notice it or not, and that's how to pass a test. Passing a test, you folks have all passed tests before. It's not like you've never taken a test. Passing a test is a game. There's a gamesmanship to passing a test, and some people just intuitively are good at it. I have a son, he drives his sister nuts because he can walk in and hardly study and get a good grade because for some reason in his brain, the questions make sense to him. And his poor sister, she studies and studies and studies, and she can't get as high a grade as him. It's not a knowledge thing. It's not a brain capacity. She's a very smart person. It's just her brain doesn't go to the game of testing like his does. So while I'm doing this, I'm going to try to teach you, or some of you may already know it. Don't think I'm looking down on you, but I'm going to go over things I look for in a question that can give me tips as to how the question, how we can find the answer. Before we begin, Do you folks have any questions about what we're doing or who I am? Currently I have no criminal record. So anyways, is there anything else you want to know about what's going on? I live in Arizona. Everybody says, oh, Arizona, it's so hot all the time. Right now, it's stinking 60 degrees with clouds. I think I'm in Illinois, but I understand that's quickly going to change in a few days, but that's where it is right now. So as you can tell, I do like to have a little bit of fun as we do this and laugh at myself. This is such a small class, folks. Here's my preference, is that as we're doing this, mute yourself. All you're doing by muting yourself is you're blocking out background noise, which could trouble the class or maybe embarrass you, right? Child crying, dog barking, someone screaming at you because you forgot to do something. We're not going to hear that, right? But I have no problem at all with you turning your microphone on and talking to us. We're a small enough group that we should encourage conversations, right? So that if you're saying, I don't understand, that doesn't make sense, sometimes, happens more often than not, somebody in the class has an insight that can help other class members, okay? It's not that I'm the perfect genius in all this. All right, so what we're going to do right now is going to start. Anything else? I've been talking and I haven't done anything yet.
Peter, I'm not sure if I missed the introduction. I had a problem trying to log in, but my name is Brian. I'm from Georgia, and so hopefully I'll get some great experience out of this tonight, and maybe meet some new friends, and somebody can help me pass my PNC.
Has your test been scheduled, Brian?
Yes, actually I've taken it a couple times. That I made a 68 the other day, but it's still not a 70. But that's good. I went back and I made a 64. So, but that was personal line. So I'm gonna try PNC again.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well, maybe we'll pick up some things today. Can't hurt.
hopefully.
We're awful glad all of you are here. So let's just mute ourselves until you got a question or a comment that you want to make. Now, the hardest part of this whole thing for me is putting up on the screen what I want to be on the screen. Let's see. That's not what I want. Okay, can you guys see the Kahoot stuff? Is that on your screen? Okay, classic mode. We're going to play the classic mode. Get ready to join. You guys know what you want to do is on your phone. You want to go to kahoot.it and put in the PIN number of 1556704. If for some reason you get bounced out of the game, you can come back and join it in progress. You just have to have that number, 1556704. So just make a note of that number if you have to do that. Or if it takes you a while to sign in and I've already started, just go to kahoot.it and give yourself a name, and we'll be able to get started. Now you guys go in and change your names so that if you do bad, we don't know it's you. But that when you do good, we don't know it's you either. So it says I got 6 people signed up for the game. I think I had 8 in the class. I don't know how many I had in the class.
I do have a quick question. How do I download it to my phone?
Okay, you just go on a browser on your phone.
Okay.
Chrome seems to work the best, but if you haven't got Chrome, don't worry about it. And go to kahoot.it, kahoot.it.
Okay, gotcha. I see it.
And it'll ask for your PIN number and to give yourself a name. So you're going to put your answers on your phone.
Right. Okay. I've played it before, but it's bad to be late. Then you feel like you're rushing.
Don't worry about that. So it gives me a chance to tell the people that my background here is got baseball. So I don't hide the fact that I'm a baseball nerd, which interests nobody, but
That's not bad.
does that mean I got to cheer for the Braves today, Brian?
Yes.
Oh, okay. One of my best friend is a lifelong Braves fan, and he's obnoxious.
Really?
Oh my gosh. And they won the World Series. That's all he talked about for a year. I said,
Yeah.
get off that.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to get started. If there's anybody not here yet, wants to join, just kahoot.it 155-6704. Let's see how this looks. Kahoot at home. This is a nice home. Big TV set. I mean, it's a pretty cool home. And the first question says, obligations and duties of both the insurer and the insured can be found in. I'll let you guys read the answers and pick what makes sense to you. So it's the conditions. Now, this is, like I said, these questions aren't simple. They're going to require you to think a little bit, but let's look at, somebody put the insuring agreement, a couple people put declarations. What we're talking about here is these parts of the policy where information is found. Declarations is just who's insured, what company, how much you pay, what kind of insurance it is. It's just the simple basics of your policy. The insuring agreement is that part of the policy that tells the insurance company promises to make a payment. So neither of those fit this question. Exclusions, of course, tell you what's not covered. Conditions are just what you might think they are. When things happen, what obligations and duties do you have? Example, what do you do if you have a claim? That's found in conditions, okay? And not only what you should do, what the insurance company should be doing. The obligations of both are found in conditions. Now, to get the most out of a Kahoot, it's fun to play the game. It's like to rejoice when you get it right, sad when you get it wrong. But please have in your hands some kind of a writing instrument. Pencil, pen, Crayola, I don't care. Just write little words to yourself. So when you're done with a day in the gym here, you can say, these are words I want to make sure I understand. It does no good to memorize questions because the questions won't be exact on your test, but you have to know what the words mean. In fact, I said this yesterday, the Chad will tell you. I think what makes the test hard is not the concepts of insurance. What makes it hard is the language that's used. So if you consider as you prepare for your test that I'm learning a foreign language, make sure you learn what the words mean. Once you know the words, the questions and answers get much easier. Enough blabbing, Peter. Let's move on to the next question. Congratulations to Gloria, who has vaulted into first place. Next question. Of $10,000 in premium over the past year, $3,000 came from sales to his wife. This is considered it's a legal, and only one got it. I told you these ones were not going to be simple. Hopefully you recognize that this is a question about controlled business. And that isn't any of the answers. What is controlled business? It's business on yourself, your relatives, your employer. It's business that people buy from you just because they feel close to you, right? Just a second here. I've got to let some people in to the class. And I got to address them before I finish on this question. For you people that have just entered the class, if you want to play our Kahoot game, you need to go on your phone to kahoot.it and enter this PIN number at the bottom of the screen, 155-6704, to join the game. In the meantime, we're going over a question that was just asked. Welcome to class. So controlled business, if you haven't heard of it, you got to learn what that is. The state only allows you to write a certain amount of your business for controlled business. Otherwise, people would get a license, buy insurance that they need, get the commission, and just have discounted insurance, never sell at all. Well, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be selling more than a controlled business. And the rule for almost every state is 50%. This person sold 10,000, only 3,000 was on the spouse. So it was lower than the 50%, which means it's a legal practice. It was not rebating. Let me see if I can just review what rebating is. Rebating is bribing, you'll never see that word in the text, somebody to buy a policy from you. If you buy a policy, I'll give you tickets to a game. I'll take you out to dinner or something like that. You can never offer gifts that are dependent on a purchase. So hear me right. Can I give a gift to a client? Of course, but I can't give a gift to someone, say, you get this if you buy the policy. That's illegal. That's rebating. Got nothing to do with this question. Coercion is forcing someone to buy a policy. That did not happen in this question. A violation of controlled business was a tempting answer, but it's not a violation because it didn't go over 50%. Okay, that's what we're coming from. For those of you people that understand everything that I'm saying, just be patient with me. I want to make sure people understand what the question's about and how to answer it. And even if you know it, it probably doesn't hurt to review the information. The next question, what happened to our leaderboard? Lady CC, wow, opened up almost 1,000-point lead. Next question says, evaluation method that allows the insurer to replace damaged property with modern construction at a lower cost. And the answer is a functional replacement cost. I told you these were not going to be easy questions. The most common evaluations on state exams are replacement cost and actual cash value. Those two you should write down. You got to know those two, but these other ones come up occasionally. This one happens to be a functional replacement cost. So we're going to replace it, but not with brand new stuff, although it will be new. It's just less expensive. It answers the question, what works? Imagine you insure a house and it's got a staircase with very expensive mahogany from Africa. An insurance company says, I'm not going to replace that if that gets damaged. I'm not going to Africa and getting the wood. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you functional replacement. I'm going to give you staircase that's nice, it's modern, but it's not going to cost me as much. In other words, it works. That would be a functional replacement cost if that were to be done. And that's what's described in the question. So one of the tricks about passing a test is having clear understanding about the question is, It's kind of like solving a mystery, isn't it? Look at this. The question gives me clues. I find out which of the answers fit the clues. And several of your questions on the test are going to fit that mode. So in terms of leadership, Lady CC has been challenged by Neuron. The Chad is playing twice. I think he got kicked out of class because of his internet or something and is re-entered as The Chad 2. I'm just guessing that. But Chad was with me yesterday. He's a tricky kind of guy. You got to watch him. Next question. Which of the following dwelling policies ensures a structure on actual cash value? All right, most of you guys got it right. At least more got it right than wrong. First question, how many dwelling policies are there? Anybody brave enough to answer that one? 3, that is correct. So what do? We throw out DP6. It doesn't exist. All right, we got rid of one answer right there. All our dwelling policies and all of our homeowners policies are HO 2, 3, and 5. They insure the buildings at replacement cost, except the basic dwelling policy, the DP1, only insures the dwelling for actual cash value. That's the only one that does that. It wouldn't be the 3 because the 3 has better coverage than the 1 and the 2. Actual cash value is worse than replacement cost. So you'd want to find a plan that offers the worst coverage. And that's why DP1 jumps out as the correct answer. But you had to know that better to have replacement costs than actual cash value. And if that's not clear to you, let me give you an example. If I have damage to my 10-year-old roof and I have actual cash value, I'm only going to get the worth of a 10-year-old roof. I'll make up numbers. It's a $10,000 roof, but because it's 10 years old, Arizona sun, it's only worth $5,000. Actual cash value, we got a check for $5,000. Where can I buy a used roof? It's really quite useless. But if I have replacement costs, they're going to come out and replace that with a brand new roof. So replacement cost is superior to actual cash value. One policy insures the buildings for actual cash value. It would be the lowest policy, the DP1. Making sense? Everybody happy? That's my goal in life, to make people happy. Let's see, Lady CC, Neuron 1 and 2. Let's move on to the next question. All my stuff is blocking the question. According to the general rules of agency, an agent represents the agent represents the insurance company, and almost everyone got it right. One person thought that we represent the client. We do not. We represent the insurance company that appointed us. And that's just something really basic to the license. And hopefully everyone's clear on that. Next question. The Chad 2 has moved up into 3rd place. Told you he's a sneaky one. You got to watch him. Where must an insurer's home office be located to be considered an alien insurer? Look at this. In another country, everyone got it right. You know what we call that? A mic drop. I leave in the room. I have a perfect class. Everyone got it right. I am a success in the teaching world. Now, we all know that. I think hopefully you understand domestics in your own state, foreigners in another state, and aliens in another country. let's move on to what did I do there? Okay. A $200,000 house is insured for $170,000 with a co-insurance, 80% co-insurance clause. You have a, how much does it say? You have a loss of 100,000. How much are they going to pay? This is a complex question. You have to know a lot of things to get it right. Only 2 of you got it right. It's $100,000. So why is this complex? When you insure a house with that's replacement cost, I don't even know if it said that in the question. There is an 80% clause. Isn't that what they said in the question? What they mean by that is you cannot insure it for less than 80%. 80% of 200,000 is 160,000. 10% would be 20,000, 20% would be 40. So as long as I insure it for more than $160,000, I get full coverage. If I had insured it for 140,000, they would only pay me 7/10 of the claim. If you don't understand my math, I don't have a whiteboard, but let's just keep it simple, Peter. If you got an 80% coinsurance, to get full coverage, you have to at least cover it for 80%. This person did. So they qualify for the full 100,000. However, if the house burned to the ground, they're not going to get 200,000. They're only going to get the amount of insurance they bought, which is 170. But what we're saying here is the 80% clause was met, so the insurance company can pay that whole claim. I don't have my camera on to see you folks, so I can't see if that made any sense. Is that an acceptable answer? Or do you need that explained differently?
Yes, Peter, this right here is the pro rata equation, right? That's what we would do that at. I've seen that on my test.
It's not.
It's not?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Where we get pro rata, Brian, is when we have 2 different insurance companies trying to figure out who pays what. Okay? That's what pro rata is. And what I'll give you my definition of pro rata. This is a Lemieux-ism. Everybody pays their own fair share. And when we get to pro rata questions, I'll explain that. But when you have 2 insurers, you pay your fair share. There's not 2 insurers here. We have 1 insurer. This is all about the co-insurance clause. That's what this question's about. We got 80% co-insurance. You must insure it for at least 80% to have full coverage. 80% of 200,000 is 160. This person did it, so they get full coverage. Okay, so it's about the co-insurance clause. Anybody else want? Please ask questions. There's no dumb question. The dumb question is the one you have and you don't ask. Did that help, Brian?
Yeah,
Hi, it's
absolutely.
80% co-insurance of, what was that? I'm sorry, I'm trying to write down the notes and I missed it.
Okay, it's a $200,000 house. And the question says it has an 80% co-insurance clause. So that means you have to insure that house for at least 80% of 200,000. 8 times 2 is 16. So it's 160,000. If this person had not insured it for 160,000, they wouldn't get the full claim. Okay, but they did. They insured it for 170. So $100,000 claim, the insurance company will pay it because they met the co-insurance clause. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yep, thank you.
Okay. Co-insurance clause is hey, this is a Brian will tell you, this is a complicated course with a lot of parts to it. And co-insurance clause is just something you got to get clear in your mind. What the insurance company says, if you don't insure it for 80%, then guess what? We're only going to pay some of the claim. Let me make the math simple. What if this person had insured it for 100,000? Well, they didn't meet coinsurance. So when they have a $100,000 claim, they only insured it for 50% of the house. So guess what? The insurance company is only going to pay 50% of the claim. So to get full coverage, you got to hit that 80%. I hope that makes sense. Again, not having your pictures on. If I put all your pictures on, I can't see the question. So I can't see if you're confused, sleeping, left the room to make a bologna sandwich. I don't know. Okay. But hopefully, if I'm not making sense, I'm wasting your time and my time, right? We don't want to do that. What do we keep doing here? I keep hitting update instead of next. There we go. Sorry, I didn't get the leaders after that question. Okay, policy has split limits, 100, 300, 200. What's the maximum amount that's going to be paid to a single person? The answer is 100,000. 6 of you got it right. 2 of you came up with 200,000, which kind of confuses me. Oh, I see what you're doing. Folks, when
Meant
you
to
have,
hit the 100,000 and then the other button got in my way.
okay, okay.
Same here.
All right, so
I think we're Tina and me, the one who pressed the number 2, but I meant that 100.
Sure, that's like the dog ate my homework. I got it. Okay. All right, so I'm not going to go on preaching to you. The 100 is per person, 200 is bodily injury total, and the third one's property damage. So you guys all got it right. That's a mic drop. I'm done. I'm retiring. I'm going to put in my retirement papers to Melissa. Okay, what do we got here? I haven't looked at this in a couple of questions. It looks like Lady CC and Chad 2 are occupying positions 1 and 2, but Chad 2 is very close. Neuron's right in there also. But let me tell you a secret. There's a whole bunch of questions left. I don't care where you are. You can get to first place with all the questions that we have on this quiz. Which insurance principle means something of value that each party gives to the other? Michelle, 200 was for property damage. And the answer here is consideration. Almost all of you got it right. What this refers to is a section of your course that says there are 4 elements to a legal contract. And those 4 elements are agreement, consideration, competent party, and legal purpose. And consideration says both parties give something of value, which is what the question was. It actually is the only one of the answers that makes sense, even if you're not sure what consideration is. So let me just, remember I told you the vocabulary word? Allow me to go through the vocabulary of the 3 wrong answers. Indemnity means to restore you, but not give you a profit. If you're driving a Toyota and it gets totaled, you are not going to get enough money to go get a Ferrari. They're going to give you you're going to indemnify you or give you enough to give you the same age and quality of car you already own. It restores you. And that's what insurance is about. Offer is when an applicant fills out the application and makes an offer to the insurance company saying, I want your policy. An assignment is giving your ownership in a policy to somebody else, assigning it to somebody else. I only say that because I want to emphasize to you, if there's words in here that you don't get, look them up. If you can't find them in your glossary, you do what every other human being on the globe does, Google it, right? Look it up and try to own the language. for the 2 hours or however long your test is, you want to speak as much insurance language as you can, because it'll make the questions easier. So no change in the leaderboard, although Neuron is moving up in over 6,000. Next question. Before legally transacting insurance in this state, an insurer must obtain. Make sure you pay attention to the wording. It says insurer, which is an insurance company, right? Look at this. Melissa, they're all geniuses. Certificate of authority. Who grants the certificate of authority? The state insurance department. You got that? You can sell in the state. I'm not going to go into the other stuff. There's other slides that we have plenty to teach on. Oh gosh, I keep clicking on update rather than next. Here we go. The maximum amount of money the insurance will pay for a particular loss or losses during a period of time. Maximum amount, keywords. Very quick. It's the limits of liability. It's not liberalization. If was that now I'm not going to put you on the spot. I will tell you what liberalization means though. Liberalization says if insurance company wants to give you more benefits at no cost, they can do that anytime they want. They don't have to wait. And it's called liberalization because it's making a better policy for free. And that's what liberalization means. But that's the limit of your liability. That's the most insurance you bought. They're going to pay up to that level, but never more. Neuron has passed the Chad. KK's in third, and Gloria, I think, is in fifth place. Because Lady CC is leading the way. This question says, an insured is not able to stay in the house after a fire. They must stay in a hotel. What's this type of loss? That's an indirect loss between direct and indirect. A direct loss is a loss of the property insured. An indirect loss is a loss of money. It's a loss of, it's an economic loss. So I had my house burned down. That's a direct loss. But now I got to pay out of my pocket to go to a hotel. That's an indirect loss. Okay. That's indirect because it's extra money I have to pay because of the loss. So knowing the difference between direct and indirect is very helpful, not so much on the test as it is to just understanding insurance in general. Remember, an indirect loss is economic loss, loss of some money. It looks to me like the positions stayed the same, and we're going to move on to the next question. The next question says, what type of liability would a person who owns a swimming pool have? Absolute. Most of you guys got it right. There are 3 types of liability. There's absolute because of the nature. Just owning a pool is an absolute liability. The nature of your business. If you paint houses and paint gets on the wrong house, you're the painter. Okay, that's absolute liability. There is also strict liability, which isn't one of the listed here, which is product liability. You sell or make a product that damage is somebody buys it and it causes damage. The third one is vicarious. That's one of these. Vicarious has to do with people you're responsible for. Could be an employee, could be your children, could be your dog. Okay, that's vicarious. But this situation, just owning the pool, fits in the category of an absolute liability. Any questions on those three? Strict, absolute, vicarious? Next question. I did see Gloria moved up into 4. I don't want to not give you credit, Gloria. Which of the following actions would be considered an offer? Well, I already mentioned this one. When you fill out an application, you're making the offer to the insurance company. I'm going to assume that explaining a policy was a slip of the thumb, because that's not making an offer. The offer comes from the applicant offering to buy the policy, okay? It does not come from the salesman offering to sell it. That's not it. It's offering to buy the policy. Remember, if you guys got questions and you don't ask them, I can't help you. So I'm not yelling at anybody. I'm just saying I want you to feel comfortable enough to ask a question if you got one, okay? It looks like all 5 people stayed in the same position. So let's go to the next question. The next question says, to determine an individual's probability of loss, underwriters will look at all of the following except which one do they not look at? Sexual orientation, this is in the area of discrimination. When you get discrimination questions, these are things, if the insurance company is making your rate on something that's got nothing to do with if you're insurable or not, that would be race, religion, sexual orientation, marital status, things like that. That has nothing to do with how well you drive a car, right? Your occupation is important because if you have a dangerous occupation, correct? Your age is important. Older people driving cars present more of a challenge to the auto companies. And gender, we have statistics showing the different claims for men versus women. I have to tell you, in the changing culture that we have, the thing about gender, I'm going to just be frank here, is changing in some states. I don't know what state rules you have, but there are some states who've just told insurance companies, don't consider gender at all, okay? So you consider one rate unisex. There are other states who still allow them to rate by male or female, and that would be birth gender, okay? But as you know, that's something that's fluid, and you may live in a state where gender is not allowed. But I'm just painting it out there. Even if you did, the clear answer here is sexual orientation. That's got nothing at all to do with how much your insurance should cost, okay? So I just wanted to point that out to you. You guys just keep holding in the same position over and over again. T has got 7 right in a row. Wow, thank you. Oh my goodness, do I ever need this? Thank you. That's the lovely Mrs. Lemieux. Which following coverages in the dwelling policy, that's the same, is for indirect loss? And the answer is additional living expenses. Other structures is part of your property, right? Dwelling's part of your property. Personal property's part of your property. Additional living expenses is that going to a hotel. It's extra expense because you've had a loss. That's indirect loss. Let's go to the next question. Which of the following lists specific perils covered under an insurance policy? Named peril policies. Now, Brian's taken this test a couple times and he'll tell you named peril and open peril are two types of policies that definitely are on the test. An open peril policy covers all perils. Named perils only covers the ones listed in the policy. So you got to know the difference between known peril and named peril and open peril. I've never heard of indexed perils, and I've not heard of specified perils. If they exist, I haven't read of them. Okay, but you clearly got to know the difference between an open peril policy and a named peril policy. Open peril, you don't have to worry; everything's covered unless it's excluded. For example, if you buy if you buy insurance on a building, you're going to find out that you burning your own building is always excluded. No one's going to pay for that, but all the other perils are covered. Named perils, they only cover the ones listed in a policy. Hopefully that's clear. And these questions must be too easy. You guys aren't changing position. Here, I thought they were hard questions. Somebody should not allow me to. It says here, which of the following is not an element of negligence? When I took this quiz before the class, I found this, for me, a difficult question. Unbroken chain, breach of duty, legal duty. I was trying to figure out what would make them not an element of liability. But then the green one jumped out at me. Libel is personal liability. That's not covered. No, it's not personal. It's Peter is a help me out. I have Sometimer's disease. Sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about. Libel is a specific kind of liability that covers you for ruining someone's reputation, okay? And that's not negligence. Slander would be in there, hurting someone's reputation, and I am fishing in my brain for what we call that coverage.
Sorry, Peter. So the difference between libel and slander, it's that libel, it's unwritten, right?
That could be. I actually don't know that. You know, I got my trusty dusty book here. I can look some of this stuff up. But to me, both libel and slandered are covered on that kind of liability insurance. Just going to take me a second to figure that out.
Yeah, Melissa here. Liable is written, slander is spoken.
Very good.
They don't
Thank
really
you.
ask that on the exam, though. They just always put them together.
Yes, that is what I thought. but
Yeah, it wasn't my first try in the exam. And since English is my second language, I didn't really know what it meant. So I discovered this the insurance exam queen after my first exam attempt, and then I realized what libel was, and I was, oh my god, I got that wrong. So
Yeah, I
So-
think of libel, like library, printed, and then
Yeah.
slander, speaking.
yeah, okay. Thank you.
that's why she's the queen. There's no doubt about it. We're gonna move on to the next question. Anybody wanted to say anything else? What is this? We have a change in the scoreboard. For the first time in the whole game, Lady CC is not in first, but Neuron has claimed first place. There's a long way to go, but I just had to note that. Next question. A transfer of the legal right or interest in an insurance policy is known as. That's an assignment. Remember, I told you how important it is that we learn all the rules of all the words. It's a language thing. Assigning a policy is giving the ownership to somebody else. And that's exactly what the question was. All your legal rights of ownership get transferred to another person, and that's assignment. There's no other word to answer that question. What's going on here? Neuron's still in first. Gloria moved up into third, I think. Next question. Once the insurer has determined they owe money to the insurer, determined they owe money to the insured, how quickly do they need to pay? This is one of these questions. You either know it or you don't. And the answer is 60 days. So hardly any of you knew that. There are on the test what I like to call number questions. And the problem with a number question is there's no way to figure it out. This is a number question. 15, 30, 60, or 20. Can I, in my logical brain, figure out what the right answer is? No. I'm going to guess. Better to know it. So you should make a list of any potential number questions and look at that list every day. This is a potential number question. How quickly do they need to pay? The answer is 60 days. There's nothing I can teach you about that because that's just the answer. So if you write all the potential number questions down and look at them every day, they will be in your head pretty clearly when you sit for the exam. What happened here? Gloria has moved up into second place. This is most interesting competition. After a covered loss, an owner is forced to close shop. What would the lost revenue be considered? That is an indirect loss. You guys are getting this indirect and direct figured out very nicely. It's an extra loss above and beyond the loss of your property, inventory in the building itself. This is a loss of money, so that makes it an indirect loss. The Chad has grabbed third place. Lady CC needs some oxygen. She's starting to get tired. This is a marathon though. So you can come back into this. If a producer sold policies at the lost cost rate, the result would be what? What the heck is a loss cost rate? It would cause losses to the insurer. Here's the way I understand what the heck, and if you want to look it up, you can certainly look up lost cost rate. But in my limited brain, lost cost is how much it costs the insurance companies to pay out all their losses. Well, if they sell policies for that, insurance company is making no money at all. In fact, they're going to lose money because above and beyond claims, the insurance company has to pay all their employees, their buildings, their advertising. They got business expenses. So just to break even, an insurance company has to have enough to pay all the claims and their personal administrative fees and costs. So even if they lumped all those together and only charged the insured that amount, they're not making any money at all. So it would generate losses to the insurer. Kayla, you want to ask what manual rates are? Okay. A manual rate, as I understand it, is the insurance underwriter would take a look at a risk, and every risk is different, and they would make up a rate manually for each risk. Sometimes they have to do that because it's a particularly confusing company or property that they're insuring, and the charts they have don't fit, so they have to manually figure them out. But they're figured out so that the insurance company can stay in business. It's not going to cause losses. But manual rates are not lost costs. Now, having said all that, I've taken a lot of quizzes. I've taken a lot of practice exams. I've never seen this phrase before. So even if it comes up on your test, I don't consider it a major part of your course, okay? To me, you got to study some of the basic information about direct, indirect, and some of the other things I've been teaching. I'm not saying this, you can ignore this, but I wouldn't worry about it.
I'm curious about the other option though,
What was it? Remind me.
with the low future rate. Is that real?
I don't know how we could tell that. It just doesn't make any sense that if we sold at lost cost, how that would bring my future rates down. It doesn't see that that's possible.
Oh no, I'm saying like, what is that? Like, is that thing?
Well, to
'Cause I
me,
didn't see it in my studies.
in my mind, it means that if we do these things today, my cost in the future to the clients is going to be less. Okay, because of things we're putting in the policy or changes we've made, so that means that our clients in the future will be able to pay less for their policy. I don't see that happening in that question. And again, that's a nice theoretical discussion. I don't think it's a major part of the course at all. So I'm not trying to blow you off, but I'm just trying to say, let's try to stay in the fairway. What I mean by that is the question we're most likely to see on the test. That's not one of them. Your question was fine. Okay, T, I don't mind questions at all. I'm just saying that's the best I can answer it today. Okay. This one says, which of the following principle describes restoring the insurer to his original financial status? That is indemnity. It's restoring you to where you were. Everybody got it right. That's an important insurance word, and it seems like we're on top of that one right now. So I feel good about that. Which of the following is fair rental value coverage on dwelling policy? The answer to that is coverage D. Coverage D. You know, folks, I hope you can see this. Let's see. I want to put up my screen here so I can see what I'm doing, because I have something I prepared for you guys, but it's going to require me putting up. Oh, I know what I have to do. Okay, I had to see myself here. I made up this chart on my little tiny whiteboard, which is probably too big for you to see. Give me an E for effort. When I studied this, I found understanding the coverages was so important. I made this chart up between the difference between a homeowner's and a dwelling policy. What's coverage A, B, C, D, E, and F? And I laid them side by side because some of them are the same. But I got to know this. That question you just got here, how do I know it's coverage D? I've got to have studied this. And dwelling policies and homeowners are the same only for a little while. The dwelling is always, the building is always A. How can we get a better view? How's that? I'll put it over my face. That'll do it. Coverage A for both of them is your dwelling. Is that better, Michelle? I can't make up for the fact I write lousy. Okay, that's just going to be part of it. B is other structures for both policies. You guys can do this on your own. You just open your book and do this. Now, C is contents, but I circled C on the wrong thing. I circled the wrong one. C should be circled under dwelling policy. Does anybody know why? I'll change that. Why should contents be circled on the dwelling policy, not the homeowners? Anybody know? Dwelling policies are sold to landlords, right? Everybody with me on that? Coverage C does not come automatic. Thank you, C10. Coverage C does not come automatic on a dwelling policy. When you buy a dwelling policy, it comes with no contents. Why? Because you don't live there. The contents in the house are the renter's contents, and you're never going to cover their TVs, their computers, and things like that. You can add it if you've got some of your stuff in there, but it only is going to cover your stuff. So to just go out and buy a dwelling policy, you'll see C has 0 premium, which means it's on the paper, but you don't get it. So yes, if renters have to buy renter's policy, the landlord's not going to cover your stuff, right? So on a dwelling policy, it does not come with contents. You can add it, but that's why I circled it. Homeowners, contents are always covered. Now, D is loss of use. Okay. No, pardon me. D is fair rental value. I have a reason for screwing this up because when I do this, it's a mirror to me and I can't see it. It's all backwards to me, not to you. But fair rental value. Let me put this down so I can talk to you. Who remembers what fair rental value is? Anybody? If I have a homeowner's policy and have fair rental value, or if I have dwelling policy, I have fair rental value, what does it do? Pays for rent. True. When would I need to pay rent? I can't live there anymore, right? The house was destroyed by a fire. I can't live there. If I have fair rental value, I can go and stay in a hotel, right? That's what the fair rental value does. Homeowners policy has that as coverage D. Dwelling policy has coverage D, fair rental value, right? But let's just talk about that dwelling policy. It is very good, Doris. It's an indirect loss. That fair rental value on a dwelling policy will only pay my rent. It doesn't pay the rent for my tenants. So guess what? If I'm not living there, that coverage doesn't do anything for me. Homeowners policy, it's very, very important. Now, when we move on to coverage E, what you see is it's called under our dwelling policy. I did this sheet wrong. I must have been drunk or something when I did. I got these mixed up. This is bugging me. I know how to change this so it makes sense. Forgive me. I could talk about it without the sheet and probably make more sense to you. When we get to coverage D, fair rental value, that's on a dwelling policy. It may not be important. Coverage E is very important on dwelling policy because excuse me. Let me go back. Forgive me. I described fair rental value inaccurately. Okay. So I apologize for that. I know I'm going to have to run laps as a punishment after this course. I'm going to have to run laps, but fair rental value is very important please write this down. I don't want you to be thinking what I said was right. Fair rental value. If my tenants move out because the house burned down, it will pay me, the landlord, rent. It will pay the rent I lost. That's really, really important. Fair rental value is very important on a dwelling policy, okay? The other one, where you get to stay in a hotel, that's called additional living expense, ALE. Maybe not important to a landlord if they're not living there, but that's D and E in a dwelling policy, okay? So I really am upset with myself because I think I put this out there in a confusing way, and I'm sorry. You can make this sheet yourself. You just take your book and you write homeowner, A, B, C, D, E, F. Dwelling policy, A, B, C, D, because you're going to be asked what coverage it is. When we get to a homeowner's policy, they take the fair rental value, additional living expenses, put them together in coverage D, which is called loss of use. E and F on a homeowner's policy do not exist on a dwelling policy. They are liability and med payments. Now, I understand if you haven't studied this before, I'm probably talking Greek, and I don't like to do that. I'm just going to tell you to try to get the most out of this. Do yourself a favor. I had to do it when I took the exam. I made a sheet of paper that said homeowners only. I put A, B, C, D, E, F. I said dwelling policy in another sheet of paper, A, B, C, D, E. They don't have an F, okay? And I wrote down what it is. So, Kayla, I have completely messed with your head, and I apologize for that. Like I told you, I'll be punished. I'll have to run laps, and I won't be able to eat any dinner tonight for what I did, but for you, just make sure you write that down. And the reason I'm going on and on about this, folks, is this was the question. What part is it? A, B, C, D, or E? You're confused. All right, let me try to, let's start to unconfuse you this way. Forget everything I said. Let's start with a brand new sheet, okay? Forget what I said. Take a dwelling policy and write A, B, C, D, E, and write what's covered in each of those. A is dwelling, B is other structures, C is contents, D is fair rental value where I get paid my rent, and E is additional living expenses. If I'm living there, I can go to a hotel. That's dwelling policy. Contents comes with 0 and there's no liability. Then you take another sheet of paper and you write at the top, homeowners, A, B, C, D, E, F. A is dwelling, B is other structures, C is contents, D is loss of use, okay? Loss of use is both fair rental value and additional living expenses in a homeowner's. E is liability and F is medical payments. They don't exist on a dwelling policy. So what I had to do, because I didn't know these policies, I had to put them on 2 separate sheets of paper. And I had to look at them and look at them and look at them. By the time I went in for my exam, I knew the differences. So please forget my little chart that I labeled the columns wrong. But anyways, forget that. But if you would please make that list, it's not hard to do. Just open your book and you'll be able to see that. And please forgive me. Think of me after class while I'm running laps for messing you up. Anything else? Can I do damage control? Thanks for your patience. I don't know what kind of brain thing I did, but it's way simpler than I made it sound. They're just different, right? A dwelling policy, a homeowner policy are different, right, Brian? I mean, you got to know these coverages. So forget that parade in my chart and things like that.
Yes,
That'll get clean.
yes, Peter, you're fine. We're entitled to mistakes, and I'm familiar with that one. But you know, one of my big things, I don't play this a whole lot, is the time. I like to have, I normally read my question twice. I probably need to get out of that. And that's why, like, man, this game, I'm trying to keep up with it. My phone keep going out. But no, this is good information. So I'm fine on my end, and I'm pretty sure. Can't speak for everyone else, but this is good. So you're explaining it well.
Okay, Brian makes an excellent point. All of your state exams give you plenty of time. You won't run out of time. You will have plenty of time to read the question twice. If you don't do that, shame on you. And try to understand the question and then look at all 4 answers. Don't start at A because it looks right. Look at B, C, D, because maybe there's a couple right answers. They want you to pick the most complete right answer. So you consider all 4 answers before you check your answer. Work off the question, make sure you understand it, and pick the answers. Great advice, Brian. Okay, but in terms of dwelling and homeowners, forget all that stuff I said. Just make a sheet of paper for each so you know A, B, C, D, E, and you guys will be fine, all right? Let's go to the next question. The next question says, what's going on here? Property insurance provides 100,000 for a building and 50,000 for personal property at a single location. What do we call that? That's specific coverage. Blanket coverage would just say 150,000, whether it's building or personal property, we cover whatever it is up to 150,000. But this policy breaks it out. We got 100 for a building, 50 for your personal, and we call that specific. You may have been tempted to go with scheduled. Scheduled is the horse of a different color. Okay. Scheduled would be if you have like jewelry or something like that, and you want to put specific coverage on that. It's a schedule for things that have extra value. But what you're looking at here is just specific coverage. And the choice was between specific and blanket, and it's not blanket. Hopefully that makes some sense of that question. I haven't checked the scores here lately. Gloria is in first, Neuron second, Chad 2 third, Lady CC fourth, and KK as fifth. How we doing? I don't see any replies. Thank you, Kayla. Think of me while I'm running laps and say a prayer for me. Here we go. Next question. Persons who are not mentioned on the declarations page, but are protected by the policy. What would we call these folks? They are additional insureds. Now, it says they're not mentioned on the policy, so they can't be named insureds. Okay, that's off the charts. If they're listed on the policy, they're named insureds, but it's not, they're not mentioned, but they're still covered. So they would be additional insureds. Where would we see that? On my homeowner's policy, my name's on the policy, my wife's name's on the policy, but it covers all the children that live with us. In fact, I don't have any right now, doesn't matter, in the sense that there are going to be people covered on your policy that aren't listed, but they're still covered. So we would call those people additional insureds. KK moved up into fourth place, and the next question says, a property is insured against damage from hail. Hail would be what? This goes back to our vocabulary. What's hail? Hail is a peril. You guys got this right. Peril was what causes the loss. So you were all on top of that one. And everybody got it right, so we can't change the standings. Over time, policy owner paid $10,000 in premium. When he suffered a loss, the company paid out $50,000. What's the word for this?
Yeah, thank you.
That is aleatory. Aleatory means what you pay in is always less than what the insurance is worth. Now, if you think about it, you wouldn't buy a policy any other way. Would you pay $400 for $400 of insurance? No, what's the purpose? I might as well keep my money, right? You always expect if there's a claim, you're going to get much more than what you paid in. Your mic's on, Brian. So anyway, what we're doing here is aleatory is the insurance has a higher value than the payment. And one teacher has explained it this way. Think of the word a lottery, where you pay $10 and win $750 million, right? You're expecting to get back way more than what you pay in a lottery. So aleatory means the insurance is always worth more than what you paid. You wouldn't expect it any other word. That's what that word means. The other word that's on here that people sometimes have confusion with, maybe you guys aren't confused, is the word unilateral. Uni always means one. If you want to write a note to yourself, if you're riding a unicycle, it has one wheel, right? Unilateral means only one party is bound to follow the contract. The insurance company promises to pay a legal claim. The insured promises to pay the premium, but the insured's not bound. If the insured stops paying the premium, they can't get sued. If the insurance company doesn't pay a legal claim, they will get sued. So what we're looking at is only one party has to follow the contract. That's why it becomes unilateral, one-sided. It's a one-sided promise. So know the words a lottery, aleatory, and unilateral. Moving on. In what section of a property or liability is the policy period stated? This is a very common question on tests. Where do we find this in the policy? That's on the declaration page. Remember, the declaration page declares. It tells you the basics of the policy. It doesn't go into all the things like grace period and all this. It's just who's covered, who's the insured, who's the insurance company, how much they pay, what did they buy? A dwelling policy, one or whatever. Those four things are all that's there. All the other particulars of the policy are put in other sections. But if you want to know the basics, that's going to be in your declarations page. In the event of a loss, the mortgage is limited to its insurable interest in the loss. This is due to this is a loss payable clause. Now, if you didn't know this, there's some clues in the question that point you this way. It says the mortgage is limited to its insurable interest in the loss. So who does the loss get paid to? In my thinking, what they're asking about here is you say you own your house, but you don't because you have a mortgage. So you and the bank own the house, right? You might have a $200,000 house and you owe $100,000 on it. So if there's a loss, we're going to pay the bank, but only up to what they own of your house. They only get 100. Anything over that is yours. That would be in a loss payable clause. Who do we pay the money to? Mortgagees, the mortgage company always gets paid first, and then you get what's left over. That's a loss payable clause. We got change in the leaderboard. Neuron just traded places with Gloria. Next question. Which of the following would be eligible for coverage under a dwelling policy? That is the house divided into 3 apartments. When you read about dwelling policy, the very first page tells you what we won't do, okay? We don't cover land. You can't have more than 5 boarders. This one had 7, too many people living there, right? The mobile home divided in 2 rental units won't work. Okay, the mobile home won't work like that. It's not that we can't insure mobile homes, but you can't split it up. But a house divided into 3 apartments is fine. That's perfect. Most of you got it right. Where do you find that? Right in the beginning of the dwelling policy chapter. It tells you what dwelling policies won't cover. Can't cover more than 3 living spaces, 3 apartments. I'm holding up 4 and I'm saying 3. It can't cover more than 4 residence units or 7 boarders. I mean, 5 boarders. Man alive. I got to eat more carrots or something like that. You ever have a stage where what's flowing from the mouth is not what came from the brain? Welcome to senior citizen.
Peter, I do have a question about that, if you don't mind.
I know. Straighten me out, Brian. What am I supposed to
Okay. No. I didn't come here for that. No. I'm trying to pay. No, the only question and I think you actually broke it down. I have a better understanding now. Is 4
units?
units, which could be considered rooms, but not over 5
Boarders.
individuals.
Correct. So
Okay.
the way I understand this is, those big apartment complexes we see, it's got like 100 apartments. You can't buy a dwelling policy on that. That's a business policy, right?
Right.
This is for the guy that owns a policy and he rents out a duplex or something like that, right? That's what the dwelling policy is for. So hopefully that helps.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's go on to the next question, which refers to the upper limit of liability will pay out for all claims that arise from a single accident. That's called per occurrence, and almost everyone got that right. So in an accident, that's the most we'll pay on that accident. As you're probably aware of, we're now talking about auto policies. If you have another accident later on, your limits of liability are all restored, but that's the most we'll pay on that occurrence. Per occurrence would be the right answer, and almost all of you got it right. Kayla, is a mobile home allowed on a dwelling policy? I promise to answer you, but I'm not going to talk from my hip pocket. Okay. So keep that and I'm going to get back to it. Okay. I'm trying to go through my database in my brain, but I will find out. Okay. And don't leave until that gets answered. But I'm not one to make up an answer for you people. You're more valuable than for me to be shooting a breeze with you. I will find out. Next question. Our leaderboard's staying the same pretty consistently. All of the following are location of incorporation classifications except. Foreign, domestic, and alien. National is not on the list. Domestic is your own state, foreign's another state, alien's another country. National is just not one of those things. The principle of negligence is defined as And the answer is failure to do what a reasonable person would have done. When you read this stuff enough, you see that as a common definition of negligence. Would a reasonable person have done that? If not, then you're negligent, okay? So it's finding, you guys all got it right, so I'm talking to the choir here, but I just want to remind you, when you get a question you're not sure, try to pick a phrase or words that were part of the course. When you see stuff and said, I don't even remember reading that, it's probably a wrong answer, okay? But you look for little clues that might be helpful to you. Reasonable, prudent, and reasonable persons are often used in our language. Uh-oh, what happened here? Gloria moved into first place. The basic dwelling form provides for all the following coverages without endorsement, except and the answer to that is additional living expenses. Here's the point on this question, okay? The point on this question is on the dwelling policy 1, which is the basic policy, A, B, C, D, E, they're all covered except that additional living expenses on a dwelling policy 1. If you want it, you have to add it. Additional living expenses are on the dwelling policy 2, 3, and your homeowners, but on the 1, it must be added as an endorsement. And that question's not uncommon, okay? So you just got to remember, the dwelling policy 1 is our lowest amount of coverage. It costs the least. It's the only one that doesn't have replacement cost, right? And that additional living expense doesn't come automatically. Well, let me take the glasses out and get serious with you folks. Let me think about that. Additional living expenses covered what? It covers if the house is burned down and I have to go live in a hotel. Doesn't do that for the renters. It does it for the owner of the house. What if I don't live there? I don't really care about additional living expenses if I don't live there. I do care about fair rental value. So whatever these tenants were paying me, I can continue to get paid even though they're not living there anymore. But additional living expenses, if I'm not living there, I don't care if it's not on the policy. It's in all the dwelling policies except the one which you can add. Did I just make sense? Okay. I mean, I just want to make sure we're clear on this. Okay. Kayla, as far as I can tell, we can't put a dwelling policy on a mobile home, but I believe the Queen is going to come in at the end of the class, and it might be a question to put to her, okay? But I want to answer that honestly. I'm just scanning around, looking at it. I don't see it really discussed in the dwelling policy chapter. Did anybody see it? Did anybody get information that has escaped the instructor?
I don't think you can, Peter.
Yeah, just because I'm an instructor doesn't mean I'm perfect and I understand everything which you've learned. But if we can just simplify it so that you guys can figure out the answers on the test, mission accomplished. Let's go on to the next question. If you can look at the bottom here, I don't know if you people care about this. We are never going to finish this Kahoot. We're only about 35% through, but that's fine. Okay. It's not about finishing. It's about understanding what we're able to go over today.
What was
There-
the question, Peter, with dwelling and mobile homes or something?
Yeah. Can we put a dwelling policy on a mobile home if we're renting it out to people?
No, yeah, I think so, but that's not, I don't think that's really a highly tested thing. I think the biggest thing is, mobile homes, you're not allowed to split into 2 units.
Ah,
I remember, I seen that a lot on the exams. But I think when they talk about mobile homes that we just, you need an endorsement, but I don't think they distinguish between dwelling or homeowners.
okay. So the big thing is not 2 units in a mobile home.
Right, you cannot split it up into 2 separate units.
Okay. Having been in mobile homes, I wouldn't want to do that anyway, but okay. Thank you for clearing that up, Melissa.
Yep,
And,
you're welcome.
By the way, this gives me a chance to do an ad. You know, when we teach these Kahoot games, or if I come in and teach a section of a chapter, you're getting portions of the pie, right? You're getting little bits of information, which may clarify and be all that you need to pass the test. But if you want to get the whole pie, please look at the Insurance Exam Queen, Melissa's website. She offers courses that'll go in much more detail on every chapter. And they're in videos and you can do it. So I would just suggest that if you want more thorough, you always want to go, and Melissa has that all prepared for you. Oh, do you want me to be tipped to go longer? Oh my gosh, you're not sick of this? All right, all right. Well, we'll see what we can do here. You know, Kayla, at certain ages, there are required bio breaks. I'll say no more. Okay, but let's keep going. Liability imposed on a parent as a result of the actions of the child would be considered what? That's vicarious. Remember, I told you vicarious, you're responsible for your children, your dog, your employees, people under your supervision. If your little wonderful little son who's perfect chucks a rock through a neighbor's window, that's your liability because you're responsible for that child, right? I'm looking to see if leaders change. I didn't see it change, so let's go to the next question. Which of the following principle describes creating or increasing the chance of a loss? Increasing the chance of a loss. That's a hazard. If we insure someone with a hazard, they have a higher likelihood of having a loss. There are 3 hazards that show up on the test. If you want to write these down: physical, moral, and morale. Anybody need me to tell you the difference between among those 3, or just write them down is enough? Nobody asked. I'm going to keep going. You know, for these people who are asking for more stuff, I have to be honest with you. I can't just stay here forever here, but you want to check Melissa's website for what's being offered this week to see if there's another course, test, Kahoot, or whatever that you can jump on board, because she's got a schedule for the week. But you know, if it's not scheduled, then we haven't planned to cover it. And these Kahoots are scheduled for a period of time. It doesn't go on forever. So take a look and see if there's something else you can join into that will help you. That's the best advice I can give Kayla and T if you want more stuff. I'll go a little longer, but I can't just go on and on. Next question. In insurance, the principle of subrogation. What the heck is subrogation? So subrogation, everyone got it right. The insurer seeking damages from a responsible party. I think the most common form of subrogation is hit and run. Your car is damaged, but whoever hit you ran. And you got to fix your car. But the person who's responsible for it is not there for you to collect on their insurance. So your insurance fixes your car, but now your insurance has a right to go after and see if they can find who hit you. And if they find that out, then they can go after that person because they paid a claim they didn't have to pay. That's subrogation. Next question. According to the law of agency, if an insurance agent has specific knowledge, it's also presumed to be known by the insurance company. Remember, as an agent, we represent the insurance company. And the law of agency says the insurance company's knowledge and my knowledge is the same. When people talk to me, it's assumed they're talking to the company. When I speak to the customer, it's assumed the information I have came from the insurance company. That's what the law of agency is. There's no differentiation between me and the insurance company in the eyes of the public. I go out there speaking for the insurance company. Okay, so that's what that principle is all about, the law of agency. Well, we got a little bit of a leader change here. Neuron has moved back into first place. What's this say? Before legally transacting insurance in this state, what must the insurer obtain? I think we had this question before, but repetition isn't the worst thing. Certificate of authority. We've had it before. Let's not waste our voice saying something you guys all know. Next question says, insurance that is a result of agreements of identity between subscribers is known as. That is reciprocal. Folks, what this is referring to, there's a section in your book that describes 6 types of insurance companies. Any one of them can be asked on your test. The most commonly asked ones are mutual and stock, if you want to write that down. Know the difference between mutual and stock. Mutual is owned by the policyholders. Stock is owned by stockholders. But then there's 4 other companies. Fraternal and reciprocal are 2 of them. Limited isn't. There's some others. I'm trying to remember what they are. Lloyd's of London, but there's 6 total. You've got to have a familiarity with all 6, at least a familiarity where you can find the right answer. When you look at reciprocal, what you're going to find out is it's agreements between subscribers. Now, I honestly don't know what a reciprocal company is. I don't know if I've ever seen one. I never had dinner with one. So I don't know. But what I did for the test is I, in my brain, put the word subscribers to reciprocal. I just connected the words. So whether I understand it or not, if I see subscribers, I'm looking for reciprocal. You see, here's the beauty of your test. This is actually really good news, folks. It's not an essay test. No one is ever going to ask any of you to explain anything. Like, I don't know what a reciprocal company is, but I can get the question right because I don't have to explain it. All I got to do is look for the word subscribers. So that type of studying, you can get away with that on this test. You don't have to have thorough knowledge of everything in this test. You just got to say, I want to connect this word. That's why Melissa, when she did this beautiful thing she did with libel and slander, library and speaking, L and S. If you can do little hooks like that with your brain, it'll get you through. You got to know this stuff for a total of 2 hours, however long your state exam is. You get a passing grade and you can forget this. I mean, and then go learn about what you're really going to be selling. But for a couple of hours of your life, you've got to find ways to hook it into your brain. So try to do just connectors, and that can be really helpful. Next question. What happens is, which section of the policy indicates the general rules and procedures that the insured and insurer agree to follow? I think we had this before. Let's see if we did. That's the conditions. For me, when I learned conditions, I know that one of the conditions they described is what happens when you have a claim. They tell what the insured is supposed to do, what the insurance company is supposed to do. And that stuff is all in conditions. It indicates rules and procedures that both of you have to follow. Like, so that you've got to be able to know what's in declarations, what's in conditions, what's the insuring agreement. Those questions will show up on your test. And again, if this thing's a lot of stuff, if you have Melissa's course, she's got a gold, platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. I think the gold's the best value that I believe. But if you get any of them, she's going to go into depth in each chapter. She's such a good teacher, and that would give you more time. Oh, T, thank you for saying that. Oh gosh, what a great reminder. You know, where I used to work, we would give people practice state exams. And I'm telling you, every time people went and changed their answers, they lowered their grade. Now, not maybe on one question, but if they went and changed 6 answers, they find out that if they just would have left them alone, they would have got a higher grade. Here's a word of advice, those of you that test coming up. There's nothing wrong with changing an answer if you're sure you're correct. I read the question wrong. Now that I'm rereading it, it's an accept question and I see the correct answer. Of course, change it. There's another opportunity you'll have when you're taking a long test. Sometimes you come upon information in question 41, which answers a question you had back in 4. Well, you got a piece of blank paper and a pencil, write that down. Then when you review the test, you get to question 4 and say, now I know the right answer. Change that one. Change the one you misread. But really avoid changing a question because you're insecure, because your emotions are taking over. Most of the time that lowers your grade. So what I tell people is, look, if you're really unsure and you answer it to the best of your knowledge, you go back and look at it again, still unsure, trust your gut. Okay, trust your gut, bet on yourself. Don't go second guessing yourself. That almost always lowers your grade. Okay. How many questions is the PC test? It's different in every state, Kayla. You will find that out. I don't know which material you're using to study, but the test center will tell you how many questions there are and how much time you have to do it. Tina has 150 in New York. New York does nothing small. Okay. Right. Gloria, Arizona, 150. Next question. Statements made by the applicant for an insurance policy that are true to the best of their knowledge. What do we call that? I want to point out in the chat box, folks, Melissa gave a link. If you go on that link, it'll tell you how many questions are on your test for your state. So that's very important. Thank you, Melissa, for doing that for us. True to the best of my knowledge is a representation. Almost all your insurance application questions are representations. Tell me to the best of your knowledge the last time you got a speeding ticket. Guaranteed answers, guaranteeing the insurance company the answer is true is a warranty. That's hardly ever done in insurance. I can only think of 2 examples. When you insure your car, you got to give us the right VIN number. When you insure your home, you got to give us the right address. But all the other questions are, to the best of your knowledge, what is this? What is that? Obviously, a social security number has to be a warranty, right? But representation, all the questions they ask about your prior history, your health, if you're buying medical insurance, our answers, representations are true to the best of our knowledge, okay? Next question. A single insurance policy that covers multiple classes of property at a single location. That's a blanket policy. Covers several locations on one policy. And you think about how perfect that word is. Blanket covers a lot of things, right? So it's not specific. Now you could say umbrella, but if you've done studying, you know an umbrella policy is just a liability policy. That's not what they're talking about. Broad insurance, that's a made-up phrase. The dwelling policy 2 is broad form. Broad insurance is made up, okay? Blanket insurance is what we're looking for. I made a decision, folks. We finished question 44. I'll go through 50 questions. We'll go beyond the time. Some of you may have to leave, then of course you leave, but that's what I'll do. I'll go through 50 questions. And I do want to give you a couple of hints about the test, okay? But let's continue on through number 50. The next question says, an insurance company that's owned by the policy owners and issues participating policies. Owned by policyholders is a mutual company. Stock company is owned by stockholders. Okay, this question seems to appear on almost every test, and it's an easy one. It's a free point. Mutual, owned by policyholders. There's a mutuality between the policyholder and their company. Next question. Which of the following types of insurance companies issues participating policies? If you were paying attention, you just saw the answer to this question. Policyholders. I'm not sure the question was written correctly. Which one of the following types of insurance companies? The type of company is actually a mutual company, but since that wasn't an answer, policyholders own mutual companies. Personal opinion, I think the question's poorly written, but I can't promise you folks that every question you're going to get on your test is properly written. That's another world. That's not the world we live in. You're going to get some funky questions. You are not taking an easy test, okay? It is one you got to study for. But remember this, don't get discouraged. Every day people pass this test, so it's not impossible. Some of the people passing the test are nowhere near as smart as you guys, all right? So it's passable, but you got to do the work, okay? You must prepare. Let's move on to question 47. The chance of loss without any possibility of a gain. No gain. That's a pure risk. No gain. We're going to give you your Toyota back, not a Ferrari, right? No gain. Speculative risk is gambling. That's where you hope for a gain. But if anybody wants to believe an old wise man, you're not going to get a gain. In gambling, you always lose if you play long enough. The house always wins, but it's entertainment, right? Number 48. 22 in a row for Neuron. Holy cow. Neuron. Sounds like you're a robot or something like that. Maybe that's why you get everything right. Which of the following sections of a contract contains the insurer's promise to pay in the event of a loss? We've had several questions like this. Where do I find this in my policy? The promise to pay. That's the insuring agreement. Connect insuring agreement with promise to pay. That's where the insurance company says we will pay if the loss comes from these perils, but it says we will pay. That's what the insuring agreement is about. Number 49 is coming up. An earthquake does $5,000 of damage, and a fire from the earthquake does $2,500 in damage. What amount's actually covered? Okay, why 2,500? Earthquakes aren't covered. You can get earthquake coverage, but you have to add the coverage. The question didn't say that they added the coverage. So we're not going to cover anything on the earthquake, but fire is always covered. Kayla, you're correct. Fire is covered. And that's how we got the answer to this question. Okay. If they had said you had earthquake coverage, then the whole 7,500 would have been covered. Kayla, or somebody asked, how can we get the rest of the questions? I think what I want to do, I'll talk to Melissa about scheduling a Kahoot in the future, like maybe next week or as soon as we get on the schedule. And what we'll call it is P&C Part 2. So if you see Part 2, I'll be starting with question 51. Fair enough? That's what we can do. So take a look for that. We're up to number 50, our last question. Parting is such sweet sorrow. I guess we're going to concede first place to Neuron. All of the following factors are used to determine actual cash value except. How do I figure out actual cash value? The original cost of the property is irrelevant. What you paid for your house doesn't matter. Okay, that has nothing to do with the value of the house. It only has value if you're going to sell it, but not insure it. Okay, what if you bought a house for $1 from your uncle? Okay, the cost of the property has nothing to do with what we insure it for. And it's an accept question looking for the wrong answer. We do need to know how old the property is, what's the type and quality of the property, and what is its replacement cost. Why do we need replacement costs if we're insuring it for actual cash value? How do you figure out actual cash value? Replacement cost minus depreciation. So I got to have that number to start with to get to the actual cash value. Folks, it's been fun. It's been 2 hours. You've been very, very patient with me. What's going to happen in the future is you're going to see me more frequently on Melissa's site, not just playing games, but I'm going to be teaching some sections of chapters. So if you want to join on board, just sign up for those classes. Look for Property and Casualty Games Part 2 is how we're going to label it. If you want to see the last 48 questions. I'm not sure when we're going to get it scheduled. We got to put that together, but it'll be soon. So look at Melissa's schedule, give serious consideration to buying her programs and really getting more out of this. In the meantime, thank you all. Thank you for your patience. And I hope we turned a couple light bulbs on. Believe in yourself, study hard, get a good night's rest before your test. All-nighters don't help you. And take your time answering the questions. So hopefully I'll see you again in a future class, but good luck to everyone. And it was nice spending a couple hours with you. Oh, I think Melissa's going to write a note to you guys asking how I did. If you tell her I stunk, I'll be working at Walmart next. So I just want to tell you the pressure you're under. What's wrong with Walmart? Everybody goes there. See later, folks. Good luck. I'm going to shut the course off right now. Thank you, everyone, for attending.